Hi, this is Rick Schumacher. Thank you very much for taking the time to learn a little bit about pressure biosciences and our very exciting and enabling technology called pressure cycling technology. We are a life science tools company, and as I go through it, I'd like to remind everybody that we are publicly traded. We're listed on the OTC QB, and therefore, please do your due diligence because some of what I'm about to say could be considered forward-looking statements. We're located a little bit south of Boston, Massachusetts. We have a small staff of 9, but we are growing. We've just hired 2 people in the last week, and I think the company has a good chance of being upwards of close to 20 people this time next year. We have a number of things that are going on that are very exciting for us, and we need to bring some people in to help us tell the story, particularly in the sales and marketing end. We've got 15 patents that are related to our technology, pressure cycling technology. In its simplest definition, we use cycles of pressure to control molecules. Everything in nature has a pressure point. Every molecule, every protein, every DNA molecule, every cell, every virus or bacteria can be affected with protein. We've never really, as scientists, used protein that well in the laboratories in the past. So what we've done at Pressure Biosciences is that we have taken and we've been able to build a machine that uses pressure that actually turns pressure on and off. And that's what we call pressure cycling technology. We can go from several thousand PSI all the way up to 90,000 pounds per square inch. We can turn the pressure on and off, on and off. And it has effect to be able to control, to kill, to inactivate, to break open, to speed up, to slow down reactions. As I said before, it's never really been used in the laboratory. Pressure moves at the speed of sound, so it's an exquisitely controllable process. When you think about scientists, research scientists around the world studying cancer, heart disease, human disease, animal disease, plant disease, they are often required to take cells, break them open, and look at what makes the cells tick, the lipids, the DNA, the RNA, and the proteins. What our primary focus right now is in enabling scientists to use our technology to break open, we think better than has been methods in the past, to break open samples, to free these molecules, to study them, to try to bring out new preventive strategies and new cures for diseases and disorders. We have 15 patents that cover pressure cycling technology. We are developing and selling machines that use pressure cycling technology, PCT. Basically, these machines have a pressure chamber. They sit on a lab bench. The scientists will take their cells of interest, put them in disposable, consumable tubes, put them in the pressure chamber, dial in the amount of pressure, how long under pressure, and how many times to cycle or turn the pressure on and off. As an example, HIV. Very dangerous virus to be working with. Put it in our special tubes, put it in the pressure chamber, dial in 17,000 pounds per square inch, let that go on and off a minute each for 30 minutes, and we can kill HIV and make it more reasonable, safer, so it can be used in the laboratory by the scientists studying HIV. And we can do this for any cell. So once you find the pressure point, dial in it, and you get the same result every time. Our initial focus is in a very critical area of research called sample preparation. Before you study a cell, before you can try to determine what is causing a disease or how you cure a disease, you need to prepare the sample. Prepare the sample by breaking open the cells and freeing the proteins and the lipids and the other molecules you're studying. That is a very critical part. If you don't do a good job of preparing the cell, you probably will not have good results at the end. We believe that we have the best new method for preparing cells of biological samples by putting them under pressure, pulsing the pressure, cycling the pressure, and freeing these molecules to be studied downstream. So we actually have our machine with the pressure chamber sitting in front of other people's machines, breaking the samples in a very exquisite way first, and then that sample gets fed into the downstream machine. We have, as a capital structure, about 30 million shares outstanding. At this point, we have revenue. We generated about 1.3 million in 2014, 1.7 million in 2015, and extrapolated, we're on target to do around $2 million in 2016. We haven't announced that yet. We also have right now about 275 of our instruments in the field around the world, many of them with key opinion leaders. Some of the top protein and lipid experts in the world are using our system to break their cells to free those samples. In year-to-date accomplishments through the third quarter, since we haven't announced the fourth, we had record product revenue both in the third quarter and in the 3 quarters to date through September 2016. We closed on a $2 million line of credit, which allows us to borrow money in this line of credit at very, very reasonable rates for our shareholders without having to go back to the capital markets at this time. We have released our next generation machine. We call it our Extreme machine. We released it in June. We've been able to make 14 instruments slowly as we're building up a process, and all 14 have been sold or placed somewhere in the world, and many of them have been placed and being used in the Cancer Moonshot Initiative, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And very importantly, we signed a co-marketing agreement with one of the world's leading global life science companies, SCIEX. SCIEX is part of Danaher, a $70 billion life science or $70 billion holding company. SCIEX is an amazing company that is the leading company, as we can see in the world, in selling an instrument called a mass spectrometer to research labs. The mass spectrometer is the gold standard for reading a protein, reading the structure, deciphering the structure of a protein. We sit in front of that machine and we break open the cells to free the protein that then can be studied by the mass spectrometer. Our system sells for about $50,000. The mass spectrometer sells for between $400,000 and $1.5 million. The next slide, slide 4, talks about management. I'd ask you to go to our website to learn a little bit more very briefly. I'm a serial entrepreneur. This is my 4th publicly traded company. The first 3 that I started, co-founded, or in the founding group, achieved greater than $1 billion in market capitalization at their prime combined. I also am surrounded by 3 terrific people that have been with me for over 10 years. Dr. Ting, one of the world's best high-pressure engineers. Dr. Alexander Lazarev, he is a protein expert and runs our R&D. And Dr. Nate Lawrence received his PhD from a Nobel Prize winner at Yale, and Dr. Lawrence runs our sales, marketing, and our operations. The board is a terrific board. Please read about them. I'll say that Jeff Peterson, our chairman, we're blessed to have someone of Jeff's work, drive, work ethic, knowledge, contacts. Jeff and I speak every day, several times. Wonderful to have him as our chairman. The next slide, slide 5, shows a cartoon basically of what a cell looks like when it breaks open. The important thing is when you break open that cell, there could be as many as 10,000 different proteins and maybe different types of proteins and 1,000 different types of lipids inside that, in addition to DNA and RNA. So how you break the cell, the quality of how you break open that cell is going to give you a good portion of the quality of your results at the end. If you do a poor job of breaking the cell, then you're going to probably have poor results at the end. The better the quality, the better the chance of having good results. And of course, the results are what may be the next cure, the next preventive strategy for a disease. So it's a critical part of research is breaking open the cell. We believe that using pulses of pressure that are very controlled, that are tuned in right into the pressure point of that cell and that protein is a better way than what is out on the market, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. This is a mass spectrometer. As you can see, we've shown it garbage into that mass spectrometer. You're going to get it garbage out. But if you have high quality sample preparation, if you prepare the sample extremely well up front, there's a very good chance that you will get the maximum, the best that you can get on the results on the back end. So it's very important, very important. It's critical to have good sample preparation before you put it into that $500,000 or $1.5 million machine. Talk about the value proposition in slide 7. the analysis of these biomolecules as you're looking for what we call biomarkers, something that tells us, is there a disease there? Do we have a propensity for disease? Are we curing the disease? Are we preventing the disease? These biomarkers. To find them, the analysis of DNA, RNA, proteins, and lipids is absolutely essential. How do you get them? You get them by breaking open cells. We believe the best way to break open cells is by using pulses of pressure or cycles of pressure, exquisitely controlled, so that you don't overbreak them, you don't underbreak them. You break the cells at a point where you can free up the proteins, in this case of interest, that you want to study for looking for that next cure. The markets are not our issue. The markets that we sell into are huge markets, multi-hundred million, billion-dollar markets. The genomics, studying DNA, RNA, proteins, lipids. We read about it every day, all the time. They're very, very large markets. So the markets are extremely big. We already have customers. We already have about 150 to 175 customers around the world. Some of them are key opinion leaders in their field. Many of them are in what we call proteomics, or studying proteins. And we've got Harvard and Stanford, UCLA, University of California, at a number of different sites, Rockefeller University. We have Amgen, Biogen, Monsanto, DuPont, many, many others, the NIH, the FBI, the FDA. So we went after, and we now can claim some very key opinion leaders. One of the top is Professor Aebersold, who's at the ETH in Zurich. He's generally considered one of the top protein experts in the world, and Professor Aebersold is working with us, and I'm very excited about that. Slide 10 shows a picture of our system. This is the 2320 Extreme. It's a small instrument. It sits on a lab bench. It's got a touch pad computer, and you can see the chamber with the red top. That pulls out. There's a chamber about a 3/4 inch thick steel filled with water. Samples are put into the tubes. You can see the various tubes that we have. The samples of cells, of viruses, of bacteria are put inside those tubes. They're put inside the pressure chamber. That lid with the red cap is put on. The bayonet is put through to hold it in, and then you go to the computer and say how much pressure. Now, what's interesting in terms of pressure, we can go to 500 pounds per square inch, or 1,000. We can go in this instrument up to 45,000 pounds per square inch. Imagine being 5 miles down, 6 miles down in the Marianas Trench. You're going to have approximately 17,000 pounds per square inch when you're 6 miles down of ocean on top of you. We will get that pressure times 1, times 2, times 3 in a matter of under a second in this chamber. And again, everything has a pressure point. So once you find that this protein or this lipid molecule can be unraveled, or this system can be sped up, this reaction can be sped up, or this virus can be killed, or this bacterium can be inactivated at X pressure, we can bring the instrument to that pressure, cycle the pressure back and forth a sufficient number of times, and make the change that we want. Make the sample safer, break it open so it can be studied. Very interesting technology. Page 11, or slide 11, talks about a number of areas. I can't go into them. Please come to our website, www.pressurebiosciences.com, to read about these. But I will talk about a couple of these impact areas that scientists are using our system. Dr. Hubble is at UCLA. He's one of the world's best when it comes to understanding the structure of a protein. The structure of a protein begets its function. So the function depends upon the structure. So you need to know the structure of proteins. Dr. Hubble is studying his proteins under pressure in a system that is called EPR, and he is a leader in this field, a world leader in this field, and he believes that the response to pressure of a compound, of a protein, could have profound implications in future drug design and development. Slide 13 talks about Professor Jenny Van Eyck. Professor Van Eyck runs all the protein labs at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, major medical center in the U.S., outside of Los Angeles, California. And she is a strong proponent of pressure cycling technology and is using our system in her work, primarily doing work with tissue samples related to coronary artery disease. Professor Bruce Crystal is at Harvard Medical School. He is a lipid expert. He studies lipids. He uses our system in his studies, breaking open cells to free lipids, and he's finding lipids in levels that he is not used to seeing when he breaks the samples using the standard methods. And he's now studying this, and we're going to be working with him in the future We hope to study this to see if we can maybe look at the levels of these lipids that are seen that are released by pressure cycling technology to see if they relate to any disease states. Professor Bruce McCord is a forensics expert. He uses pressure cycling. He puts forensic samples, blood, tissue, rape kit samples in swabs to break open the samples in a more systematic method. And please read about this, and please read about the untested rape kits in the U.S., about 400,000. Dr. McCord finds this to be totally non-acceptable, as many of us do, and is working on a way to speed up and maybe as much as 5 to 10 times faster rape kit testing so that we can do more testing with the same amount of work that we're doing now to try to get rid of this backlog that we have. This is Professor Aebersold. I mentioned he's one of the top protein experts in the world. He is looking at using pressure cycling technology in a number of tissue biopsies. He has also coined a phrase that's called PCT swath. PCT stands for pressure cycling technology, our technology. Swath is the acronym that's used by our partner, SciEx. And SciEx is the leading company in the world selling the mass spectrometer, the instrument I mentioned just a few minutes ago. He put us together with them and said how he likes to break his tissue samples, is to use PCT to break them, and the swath method with the mass spectrometry from SciEx to read them. And so he calls it PCT swath. Has been very, very helpful to us. This is David Wheel. David is a consultant to the company. He was at one time vice chairman of NASDAQ, and he's generally considered the father of the Jobs Act. We are working with David very carefully on a number of things with his enormous background and contacts. The last few slides, I'd like to talk about the key achievements of 2016. We closed an oversubscribed agreement, a debt agreement, a very safe debt agreement with a fixed conversion price at 28 cents. We went for $5 million. We closed at $6.3 million. We have gotten rid of all of what we call the variable rate debt. So we have no ugly debt, no variable rate debt on our balance sheet. We totally eliminated it. We have a co-marketing agreement with SciEx. Again, SciEx is one of 6 companies that are the leading companies in the world selling the mass spectrometer. Our system, we feel, can sit in front of the mass spectrometer and be the system that breaks open the sample to free the protein and then break the protein down to the smaller parts that are put into the mass spectrometer. So this agreement just started last year in early 2016. We're very excited about 2017 and where this agreement with SciEx might take us. We've released a brand new instrument called the 2320 Extreme. It's like our previous instruments, but it has many more bells and whistles. It will give more information to the scientists that are using it. We feel that both existing customers will trade in and trade up to this new instrument, and it'll be also a big seller to new customers that are not using pressure cycling technology at the present time. We've released results through the first 3 quarters. We've had record product revenue through the first 3 quarters. We did over 1.5 million in sales. We've never done $500,000 in more than 1 quarter total. Before 2015 and 16 and 2016, the first 3 quarters were all at 500,000, so exceeded 1.5 million in just those 3 quarters. We signed a $2 million line of credit, which we've been using, and allows us not to have to raise money at the present time. We're using a $2 million line of credit, which has very fair cost to our shareholders. And our instrument, we feel, fits right into the initiative, the Cancer Moonshot. A lot of talk about the Cancer Moonshot. Past President Obama's initiative to try to do in 5 years what would normally take 10 in cancer research, led by ex-Vice President Joe Biden. And we understand that Vice President Biden will continue this now that he's out of office on his own. So we're very excited about that. Slide 19 goes into some detail that I can't go into now. The bottom line is simply that our first 3 new instruments, the Extreme, the next generation instrument, were bought by the Children's Medical Research Institute in Sydney, Australia. They're going to test 70,000 or more tumor samples. They're going to break them all up using our consumables and using our instruments, and then using the SciEx swath mass spectrometry method after us. So we're very excited about that. Slide 18 Actually, slide 20 is talking about the initial commercial applications, and we are doing our best to introduce this technology to labs. We think there's 16,000 labs around the world that have at least one mass spectrometer. We're introducing this to them and letting them know there's a new way to break samples, break them using pulses of pressure. And as you can see from this slide, please take the time to look at it on our website. You'll see that it is something which has a very, very good possibility of going to 30 or 40 million dollars a year in sales. This is not guidance, but this is an example of how big the markets could be. The last slide I have, slide 21, talks about short-term growth drivers. Why are investors, why would they be interested in buying our stock now? We have our 2-year exclusive deal with SciEx, and we're very excited about that. SciEx being a global leader in life sciences and a leader in selling mass spectrometers. We're entering our 2nd year, and we're very excited about what this might mean to the company and our shareholders in the 2nd year. We've gotten rid of all of the floorless debt. We plan to expand. We are already expanding. We have 2 part-time people that are in now that have added to our sales and marketing staff. I'm interviewing someone tonight for a high-level position, and we are also interviewing people, 2 to 4 people, to take other positions around the country. So our expectation is over the next 3 to 6 months, we will add up to 4 full-time people just in sales and marketing. We have the product, we have the need out in the market. We need to get the word out there, and the way to do that is through developing our internal sales and marketing. To this point, we have one lady who is doing sales and marketing. She spends half her time in sales. That's a half a time salesperson. To finish up this last slide, we're talking about the next generation barocycler, which was released in June. And as I mentioned, the first 3 were sold to a cancer moonshot collaborator. And we've made 14 instruments, and we've sold 14 to date. And of those 14, I'd say roughly half have gone to cancer moonshot laboratories. We expect to continue with the collaborations with Professor Aebersold and Professor Van Eyck, Professor Hubble, Professor McCord, and others. Exciting for what 2017 brings to us. And lastly, we expect revenue will continue. We think it'll be driven by a new consumable that we have called the micropessel, which we have a video. Please take a look at it on our website. We've got the new instrument that is soon to be, we believe, CE marked. We've been working hard to get it CE marked, and we think it'll be CE marked, which will enable us to sell this instrument in dozens and dozens of countries that require a special certification, a CE marking, before we can enter that country. And we think we're very close to getting CE marked. We have a new focus on the 2 or 3, actually 3 instruments on the back burner that are almost ready to go. And we think in early 2017, we'll have the cash and the time and the people to get these off the back shelf and get them out. So instead of having 2 instruments in the field, we'll have 5 instruments in the field. And as I mentioned, I think maybe most of all, the additions to our sales and marketing team in 2017 are very exciting, because this is a company that has increased its sales from nothing to a few $100,000 to $500,000 a quarter on the backs of half of a salesperson and the rest of us working in other areas of the company. And we're very excited what will happen when we have 2, 3, 4 full-time salespeople out in the field. I appreciate you taking the time. Please come to our website, pressurebiosciences.com. And right now, I'm going to turn it back to RedChip, and RedChip is going to open up for Q&A, and I'll be happy to take your questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, we're now opening the line for our Q&A session with Pressure BioSciences. The ticker symbol again is PBIO. And for the Q&A session, we have Richard Schumacher. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you. Happy to be on.
Happy to have you here. Great things going on. Love to share it with our audience. Our first question, can you talk a little bit about some of the milestones you have upcoming in 2017, and can investors expect a NASDAQ listing this year?
Well, we've talked about that publicly starting the second half of 2016 about a NASDAQ uplist, and I think many investors know that we did file our proxy in November of 2016. And in that proxy, we talked about a a NASDAQ uplist and the process of an uplist, and we also filed an S1 with the SEC in late December of 2016, which also talked about a NASDAQ uplist. So it is very clear that this company desires to be back on NASDAQ, and we're working hard towards it. And our goal is to be NASDAQ listed in the first half of 2017.
Very good. Thank you, Rick. Our next question: can you talk a little bit about the overall progress that you've been seeing from your and then the synergies you're seeing with the SciEx relationship that started about a year ago?
Well, SciEx started 1 year ago. They're a very large company. They're almost 3,000 people, and we're a much smaller company. So the first year I knew would be a year of getting to know each other, particularly since the deal was done after their 2016 plan was well put in cement, and it was they were already on their 2016 plan when we signed the deal. But we have had several instances where we did some co-marketing at shows, where we did we got together and did some workshops together. We have trained a number of their salespeople and their distributors. We've worked on a movie, which is actually on our website now, a small short video, professionally done, that needs to have the voiceover finished, which we're working on right now. That will be a tool that their people can use. And also we're working on some other paraphernalia that will be handed out. So the first year was getting to know each other, getting to know the products, doing some cross-training. I'm expecting more. The second year, we're starting now in January into our second year with SciEx. Of the 2-year agreement, they do have some minimums, which they didn't have in the first year in terms of accounts that they need to turn over to us in order to keep their exclusivity. So I'm expecting more. I'm happy with what we've done so far, and I'm expecting more for 2017.
Great. Thank you, Rick. And our next question is actually on the timing of the CE mark approval. Can you talk a little bit about what maybe needs to be done technically and when you may anticipate receiving that CE mark approval?
Well, the CE mark approval, the question must be relating to our brand new next generation instrument, which you call the 2320 Extreme. This instrument came out in June, and it's really only available to researchers that live in countries that do not require a CE mark, because we do not have that CE mark yet. That limits it. There are dozens upon dozens upon dozens of countries. At one time, I knew there was 87 or 88. I don't know if it's that number anymore, but it's certainly in the dozens of countries that will not allow you to ship into their country if you don't have a CE mark. We started the CE mark process at the same time in June. It's generally, in my history about experience, about a year-long process. We are optimistic that it's going to take us less than a year. We know how important it is to get CE marked. We know that many people that are interested in our machine are in countries that require CE mark. So quite frankly, Paul, we have worked very hard, very diligent, and I'm optimistic that the CE mark is going to come sooner than later when we looked at that 1-year normal time period. So we're well on our track, and I'm optimistic it'll happen sooner than later.
Very good. Thank you, Rick. And can you talk a little bit about any potential equity raises that may be needed in the near future?
Well, everyone knows that we filed an S1, and everyone should go. I'm not at liberty to talk about that. Everybody should go to our filing to get the information about the S1 that was filed in late December of 2016. We also announced in October that we signed a $2 million line of credit on very favorable terms for our shareholders. And that line of credit is being used for two key purposes. One is expanding the capabilities, particularly through staff at our company. And we've brought on 2 different groups that are helping us out in sales and marketing. I'm actually in the process of interviewing people. We have one person going to one of our sites today to be interviewed by some other people, and I have other people that I'll be talking to. So our main goal is to enhance our sales and marketing. We have one person who spends half her time in sales. We need to bring that up, and we are bringing that up to 3 or 4 people over the next few weeks and months. And we've already added several part-time people to help. In addition, the main purpose of that line of credit is to ensure that we do not have to go out and raise money over since October, and we haven't had to go out. We have access to cash in our line of credit, and that line of credit is enabled us to this point and going into the future to not have to raise money. So no, other than the S1, which people need to go into, the investors need to go to the to our website, and they can find out and read about the S1. Other than that, we have no intentions of raising money. We have a line of credit, and that line of credit has been very helpful to help us move forward so far since October.
Very good. Thank you, Rick. A lot of great things happening. For our audience, if you want to learn more about Pressure BioSciences, you can actually find a lot of information right here at RedChip.com, including some reports and previous interviews that we've done with the company. And if you want to stay abreast of the developments with all these things happening and coming up in the coming months and quarters, you can sign up for news alerts right here at RedChip.com, and you'll be one of the first to find out as the company announces some of these new achievements.